position.
And we're live.
Hello everyone, welcome to HEP-IPTS Round 2. I'm Oviana from the Choral Beer Chair. So, debating on the motion that this House will punish parents who get divorced while they have children below the age of majority, I may now call on the Honorable Prime Minister to debate the motion that stands in his name. Hear, hear.
Hear, hear. Don't have to wait for him. We from state government firmly stand with the motion today. Okay, now, before I move on, let us go through the structure of my debate today. First of all, as the Prime Minister, I will define and characterize today's motion to specific key points. Okay, moving on, then I'll address the existing issue in today's debate and tackle the crux of today's problem. And then moving on, I will also explain why government stands firmly with the motion today and why we should win today's debate through my first argument, including with 3 levels of analysis. Okay, now moving on, let's define today's motion, shall we? Okay, first of all, this House would punish parents who get divorced while they have children below the age of majority. Okay, let's first define what is age of majority. Age of majority is basically the legal age of children can be, which is usually 18. Okay, in 18, they are considered to be mature in all perspectives, which includes emotionally, mentally, and also physically. Okay, now, let us go through what's the definition of parents. Parents are individuals consist of a paternal and maternal figure, and they have legal responsibilities on their children under the age of majority. They are responsible for the actions of the children as they are still under the care of said parents. Now moving on, let me define what is the meaning of divorce. It is an action where the parents decide to split and break away their marriage and go in separate ways. And usually, a case of divorce takes a long time to process, and it includes court cases and legal action. And it has many negative impacts on both the mental and physical health of the children, which will be explained by my second speaker. Now moving on, since we're talking about children under the age of majority, they have no power to decide which parents they want to live with, since they are below the age of majority. They are deemed immature to emotionally and mentally make a decision on which parents they will opt to live with, thus making the court to give a decision for them to choose which parents they will lead on. Now, let me go through what is the mechanism. Please sit down, sir. I'll give you a chance later. What is the mechanism of our punishment? First, it includes fines, jail time, couples therapy, and counseling. This is all in order to reconcile the relationship between the couples and to fix the problems that exist in their relationships. Sit down, sir, sorry. And this also includes anger management issues. Why do you include anger management issues? Because let's say a couple gets back together to take care of a child. They would, they would sometimes abuse each other to get away, to release their anger. Thus, we include anger management issues so that they won't let out this anger towards the children. Sit down, sir. Okay, now let me explain to you why we choose this kind of punishment. Because firstly, it is don't want to further burden parents in any way, as we only want to raise awareness, so they will realize the disadvantages of them undergoing a divorce while having children under the age of maturity. Now, our punishment will be proportional to the condition of said parents. How do I say it is proportional? For example, to rich parents, we would give them a higher fine or a higher jail time, and for poorer parents, we would give them a lower fine. Thus, we are being fair to all said cases of parents.
Speaker.
Okay, sorry, yes.
If this debate takes under the lens of what's best for the children, if in your case, even the children want their parents to get divorced because they find one of the figures extremely abusive, would you then allow the divorce?
Again, I say these are children under the age of majority. They are deemed physically and mentally, emotionally immature to make decisions. So how could they want their parents to divorce? Now moving on to my first argument, which is the rights of divorce versus the rights of basic needs of children. I have 3 levels of analysis for this. First, let me explain to you what is the rights of divorce. Like I said just now, it's the rights of parents to split and break up their marriage and to go in separate ways. Now let me explain what is the rights of basic need of children. It is said by the UN, children's basic need rights include love from both parental figures, education, protection, shelter, and everything that protects their needs in order to secure a basic future. Sorry, please sit down. Okay, let me give you a quote. When you take away the rights of someone else, it is justified for us to take away your rights. This concept has been applied in laws all over the world. Another example, when you murder someone, you take away the right for them to live. Thus, it is justified for court to take away your right to live by giving you a death penalty, capital punishment. Sorry, sir. Okay, now since this concept is applied in law worldwide, why can't we apply this law on the motion today? When a parent divorces, when they have children under the age of majority, they strip away the rights for their children for education, fair love from both paternal and maternal figure. They are no longer involved in the growth and development of said children.
Speaker.
Sorry, sir. Please, thus making the children to grow without having to achieve basic rights, like I said just now, love from both parental figures, education, protection, and shelter. So, now moving on. Since these produce a lot of disadvantages for the children, it should be justified for us to strip the rights of divorce through the act of punishment and the mechanism that I have explained before.
Before 6.
Sorry, sir. Anyone of you?
Okay, Speaker, this is a quick question. If you say that love from both parents is an unequivocal right, would you also ban giving up children for adoption?
Yeah, yes, sir. Why do you ban giving up children for adoption? Because they again neglect the rights of children for basic needs of love and education. Okay, that's my second level of analysis. Why we would want to consider the nature of underage children. Children under the age of majority are very dependent to their parents in terms of money, love, shelter, protection, and in every aspect possible. These children are also still mentally and emotionally immature to make decisions in life. Thus is when the roles of parents come into play. But when these parents divorce and go into separate ways, children are left stranded to face the cruel world by their parents. They lose the identity, they lose the ability to put their parents as a role model, and turning them into cruel and heartless beings. Now moving on, my third levels of analysis, the process of divorce itself. First, the process of divorce is a very long and tedious process which involves agreement, a great deal of money, energy, and mental aptitude. And during this time, the children will be placed in the care of a close relative or under the protection of state. And this affects the children in many ways, which will be explained by my second speaker. Why I want to highlight, during this time, the children are prone to brainwash by their parents. Parents will try to win their children's hearts by bribing them with love, extra love and money. We argue to you that if their parents can do this to their children when they are undergoing divorce, why can't they use this effort to give their love to their children when in a perfect marriage? And to sum it all, we believe that when parents divorce, it is unjustified for the children, as it is the best interest of this house to protect and the welfare of children in every way possible. And with that, I now be proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We may now call the Leader of Opposition to present the clash. Hear, hear.
The children that you want to protect won't be hurt anyway. Under your case, the children will continue to suffer in hostile environments. Let's point out that most of his speech was non-contentious and his definition were basically agreed upon. But first, when he wanted to compare time, let's do the real comparative as to which environment then allows children to suffer even longer when their parents are arguing, when their parents are abusing each other, when their parents are not happy at home. When we want to reconcile people through couple therapy, let's understand the effectiveness of therapy and will it work 100%? No. But divorce is a fucking 100% absolute when it comes to children being protected. How? First, anger management. Child abuse will happen more on your side when you allow parents to then continue to live with the children and to continue to abuse them even more and into criminal courts. What will your cost then be? Second, proportional, because there will be more fine and time for parents who are more abusive. The problem is, what is your metric on how to judge whether each parents are more abusive or not? How are you going to monitor each family out there who have children that you will then incentivize to do so? Third, is when you take away rights to live. We believe that first, the premise of both terms are still very different because these are children and they did not commit any crime. People who in some states deserve to go for capital punishments because they committed a crime towards masses, and that is their law. But first, just because it's legal, it doesn't make it right. Just because anything is not illegal or legal doesn't make it the absolute metric of what is right and wrong. Second, who neglects the rights to love more? We believe it's the state who allow parents to divorce, to not divorce when children are below the age of majority just because they are immature to make decisions. Now, let's challenge that premise. Why are children then considered immature? First, if they're emotionally unhappy and don't want to live in that household where their parents are arguing every single day about their financial burden, they tend to grow up to be people who understand that financial is the most important thing in their lives because they want to know that their parents are suffering because of them. More so, this will then become an insult to these children. How? First level, that these children will then blame themselves for their parents arguing at home every single day instead of understanding this is a parent conflict. Why? Because if they're arguing in front of their children, and if they abuse their mom because of their children, when they're witnessing this, they understand that this is their fault. That they then will not be able to grow up understanding that they are not the case as to why their parents have anger management or have these issues within themselves. We must then understand that parents are still individuals who do not deserve to sacrifice their happiness just for the happiness of one child. More so, if this child then do not gain happiness, what is the benefit of their case? No comparative. First, into our case, nuclear families are subtle, have a lot of subtle nuances. The blanket policy hurts the vulnerable the most. Divorce happens because of parents' incompatibility, not the children's fault, but it affects them the most. These children, under your case, won't be heard in court. And these children will never be taken into consideration in the law. Why? You're disregarding them. The fact that even if you want to have a euphemism as to saying that just because they're below the age of majority, hence they're immature, hence they cannot make their own decisions, false. We believe that as of now, status quo is the best way to go. Why? Children go to court. Their hearing matters and takes into account. Which parent do they prefer to live under? Which parent are they closest to? Which parent do they think is the best for them? Is taken into account. Under their case, at least under our case, even if they wanted two parents to be the maximum happiness possible, there'll still be time allocated by the court to see each parent, right? So that will be the best case because you're seeing them at their best condition with other people or alone. We believe this is the best way to go because these parents will probably still be financially able to take care of these children because courts will not allow these children to go under a parent who is financially unstable anyway. Now, when it comes to understanding the archaic narrative of a perfect marriage and why this supports patriarchal societies and misogyny within families is inherently detrimental. Before that, yes.
Here's the thing, right? Under your side of the house, you assume that all children are like exactly 17 years or able to think by their own self. Understanding the nature of children, which are easily influenced by every single thing that exists within the school, how do you then make sure that children...
You as a child have preferences. You understand that ice cream tastes sweet and medicine tastes bitter. Yes. You know basic human stuff that you know and you can understand and comprehend. When they are not happy, they will cry, they'll be angry, they'll lock themselves in a room. All these kind of things, children understand. What makes you think that they don't understand the concept of happiness when they're in a family who's always arguing every single day and blaming themselves and crying in the room when they are there? We don't understand as the house set government just dismisses this because it's immature and just because they cannot make decisions, it doesn't make it a valid decision. Now, into the archaic narrative of a perfect marriage, that this will look down on divorcees and single parents. Now, why are so many parents afraid to be single? Because they're never getting laws that will protect them. Single mothers can never get the single fathers can never get can never get the right to take care of the child, even if because the courts will then be more paternalistic. Or more so, single mothers will then continue to suffer under minimum wage that they will never get that's equal to men. So this means that they're under their idea of a perfect family and a complete family is letting these individuals define it by themselves. What they're doing is not letting them define it by themselves. So eventually, what they still stick to is an archaic narrative of that both parents must be there to take care of the children. We believe not so. The maximum happiness of the child can then be taken care of by the person that they choose and prefer to. Why? Because a complete family isn't letting the individuals define it by themselves. That there's no need for anyone to arbitrate as to what a perfect family is. For me, perhaps my perfect family will be dogs, cats, kittens, and not children. And this means that if I get children, I'll suffer even more than I'm supposed to because I'm granted a responsibility that I do not want. There's a difference between being a husband and a father. There's a difference between a wife and a mother. There's a strict difference of children growing up unhappy. They grow up endorsing abuse and violence and eventually victim blame society. That they're detached from parents rather than growing up with a parent that can guide them in life. They're going to be more influenced by the worst things out there and will not have a concrete guidance of their parents. Parents will not care if they reason that the child ruined their lives as well. That parents now understand that this responsibility that will not allow them to divorce means that they'll be continuing living the unhappy life. And we believe that this is something that is archaic and should be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Vote. We now have the Deputy Prime Minister here.
The main reason why actually divorce happen is because the parent fail to like consult with each other. Before they get into marriage, they don't really take into consideration about how what happen if they having a then they get married, after that they have children, after that like they want to divorce. They don't even think about the effect to the child at the first place. That's what in our side or the government side we regret about that. So here is structure of my speech. My speech will divide into two sections, and rebuttal section and argument section. So moving on, my rebuttal section. Firstly, their very flaw is that they are assuming that children is mature, which is wrong at so many levels. Because firstly, we have to understand that that children are not mature at the first place. They don't have the right to vote. Because why? Why? Because they like don't mature enough to do that kind of decision. They don't have that mental capability to do that, like what's right and what's wrong. For example, if they like their dad abuse them, then after that abuse their mother, then their dad give them ice cream. They will love the ice cream. They will say, oh, my dad is good because give sweets. Oh, but still, the fact that the father is abusing the mother making, but he still loves the father because the fact that he give that particular ice cream show to us that children are not capable to make this kind of decision. They don't even have the capability to make good decision, make compromise and such on. That is what adults do, ladies and gentlemen. So they have to understand the first place. And even if like that children have the mental capability, we believe that it is like a little amount of children who will actually have that particular part. And even that is the case, then they will like become more hatred to the marriage. They will not believe in marriage after that and such. Right? Flaw from their side. When they say that the children parent and incapable, we concede to the fact that when they divorce, the parents are incooperative, right? So the reason we want to do this is because it will create more awareness. We're not like banning them. It's okay for them to divorce, but to the very least, they have to concede to the fact that they still have immature child that need to take into account. Yes.
Speaker?
Yes.
Speaker, through your convoluted example, we understand that children are probably immature and don't understand the subtleties of abuse that happen in a marriage, right? So then isn't it only fair if a figure in the marriage thinks they're being abused, to get their divorce as easy as possible instead of not having anything done for
That
them.
is wrong, because at the first place, then you create a child that think that marriage is a simple thing. It is easy for marriage, just like marry, and if you don't feel you are compatible with each other, then you just get married. Which is wrong, because we don't want to, because that in the first place is the crux of today's debate. Is the crux of the problem. So moving on my argument, how actually it harm the children and how actually better in our side. When divorce causes mental stress to the children, right? Because when their parents divorce, they will be sad. And only that, they will still young, don't understand things, right? And we consider the particular fact because we are talking about children below the majority age. So it will create conflicting issues. So what happened to the child? The child will become do negative thing and such. And even if they don't go into negative things, like even if their life is not destroyed, it is still possible that they do not get enough love from their parents at the first place, right? So I actually we don't agree that there are certain child who want to divorce. Even if the child want divorce, they still want their love from their mom and dad. So here's the thing: the child life is got the hugest impact. Not only A, it's not their fault. B, they will not have enough love, and 3, they will got like mental stress and all. So what is the advantage in our side of the house? Advantage of the house, we are actually promoting better awareness to the parents before divorcing, because if there are punishment, we consider the fact when there are punishment, they will understand there are consequences. When they want to decide that particular thing, right? They will take a moment and look to their child who is still having full then they will make a decision which we hope they won't they don't divorce and such, right? Even if they want to divorce, like they really cannot like comfortable and take the decision to divorce. We believe that will happen at the end of the day. So the conclusion is our first objective is that to the very least, parents will be more aware to their role when they are making this kind of decision. Even if the current parent still don't aware, and to the very least, we believe that in our case, in our side of the house, we will spread the awareness to people who want to get married, who want to get children. Because why? Now to consider the fact there are punishment, they will become more think about their child. Yes.
Aware of the deterrence leads to more condoning of abuse under your case. Are you okay with that?
Yes, we're okay with that. So here's the thing, because in a lot of cases, they decide to divorce. In a lot of cases, they decide to divorce because why? They're not really compatible with each other, which consists to the fact that they still don't take into account their children. We believe that if we put this into account, people will actually become more considered deeply on their children, because there are punishment that they will get if they divorce and such. So to the very least, we believe that people who want to get married will now consider the fact that if they have to consider their marriage or to decision to get child better, because to the very least they will understand that if they fail, then if they fail their marriage and divorce, there are consequences behind that, which is the children. So basically, in our case, we promote better awareness to the parent who will do this decision, who will divorce, and the parent who want, and to the people who want to become a parent, where they we prove to you that we have a better protection and such. So we believe that in our side, I will promote the awareness, because if this awareness are promoted, we believe that to the very least, most of the child will not have this problem, because the parent will become more responsible because of the awareness. Thank you.
We'd like to thank the Deputy Prime Minister, and we'd like to invite the Deputy Leader of Opposition here.
It's honestly a sad thing that side government does not recognize what divorce actually is and does not recognize the circumstances in which why divorce happens. Divorce happens because of levels of abuse, whether it's a mental abuse or whether it's physical abuse. It's offensive for their side to just say they're okay for abuse. We don't think those things are okay. It's just damn offensive. You cannot just say you're okay to have abuse just under the veil of, quote unquote, you should keep family values, you should keep children under your care, whatsoever. Abuse is blatantly wrong and offensive. You cannot defend that. This is why you clearly lost this debate already. 3 reasons why their side lose the debate. Firstly, they refuse to recognize the livelihood of children that we have been talking about from our BOIs and from LO. Secondly, their side and their statement perpetuates patriarchy. And thirdly, I'll talk about divorce, why their side harms the happiness of parents in the first place. But let's look at 2 nitty-gritty things that didn't really fit in. Firstly, this whole assertion that children are not mature. Like, okay, really, let's assume that they are not mature. Even if you assume that they are not mature, just like what the law does, that does not mean you can exclude their opinions or feelings at any point in time. This is why in courts, there are pediatricians there assessing the children and asking questions to the children. This is why even when kids go to courts, the courts are readjusted to make the court proceedings less intimidating to the child, make it less formal so that the children can speak out more easily and don't feel so intimidated. But this is what's so harmful about their policy of not excluding children from having any say of whether they want their parents to stay together or not. Their policy perpetuates an imbalance of power in which parents would exploit the children's emotion just because the parents know that the children's opinions would never ever be considered, because parents would normally take the option in which they would not get punished. And by the way, right, like this is quite I'm quite nitty-gritty about this. They didn't really actually say what type of punishment they want, right? Are they going to like jail them or like fine them whatsoever? Nothing told from them. But secondly, they told us parents would be more aware. But wait a minute, right? When parents take a divorce right now, they are really aware of the consequences, and they take those kind of things such as where the kids will go into consideration. At the point in which they divorce is the point where they recognize that that marriage is irreconcilable. They just cannot interact with each other whatsoever. And it's that point where separation is the best. No, thank you. Let's look at the first reason. The livelihood of children. Because their argument was, this was they keep saying that long stressful process in courts for kids when getting divorced. Firstly, like I already told you just now, that children are normally, the conditions in courts are normally readjusted to make it less intimidating for children. Their judges asking them more personal questions behind closed doors, etc. But secondly, right, even if we do assume that this court procedure does harm the kid emotionally in any way, we argue that the short-term harm over here is far more worth it and is a trade-off we are willing to take for the long-term harm of abuse that they have to suffer. But secondly, let's also talk about kids, whether they do not have a choice or not. Their argument was, and this is like quite weird of them to say this, that kids have no choice when they go to court. No, right? The courts often ask the kids, which parent would you more likely want to stay with if they divorce? And the courts often make a cost-benefit analysis and take those kind of opinions into consideration. But secondly, and again, your policy completely removed the choice of kids. But this is the 2 scenarios that they never responded to that came in Alex's speech. In the worst case, kids are being raised in abusive households. Their side makes that even worse, because what the kids will suffer is a world in which they cannot identify their identity and construct their identity. The kid's entire life is constructed based on the violent experience they experience. Their life is defined in total abusive violence. Their side makes that even worse. But in the best case, let's just assume that the parents are just incompatible, they just can't stay together. The kids will constantly blame themselves for the parents' incompatibility by questioning their existence, by claiming that their existence caused the marriage to falter. Those kind of things are further perpetuated under your side because the kids are always meeting their parents, and the parents will always see them as the barrier between the marriage being better. So at least in our case, here's the outcome. in divorces, let's assume that the child just stays with one parent. At least the child right here can be close to one parent without another parent being a barrier. But second, in a better case scenario, can be close to both. So like sometimes courts will split 50% of the time to each parent. At least the kids can meet up with both the parents separately and not have a barrier of no relationship whatsoever when they are staying at home. So in conclusion, outside does give better livelihood of children. But before I move on, I'll take a POI.
You consider the fact that understanding the nature of children, which is very dependent to the parent, even if their parents were to be abusive, the children still needs their parent in terms of education and such.
Yeah, I think if your problem is that, we would give more child care, like child social security and safety nets, like we'll give free education to them, like what happens in status quo. Why their side perpetuates patriarchy, that's bad. Because their side accentuates abusive relationship. And this was a large chunk of argument that came out in Alex's speech that went largely unresponded to. Because let's recognize in a lot of abusive relationships, it's often the male beating up their wives. Their side accentuates those kind of abusive relationships. Because right now, the male has absolute, like, a lot of, there's an imbalance of power over here. Whenever a person beats up their spouse, they can always use the argument that if you report this and if you do decide to divorce from me, this will go reported. You would get ostracized by the society who has already been have a bad opinion on divorce cases whatsoever. But secondly, if the child still lives under their side, those male kids that live in those kind of abusive marriages would internalize that abuse and think that those kind of abuses are normal. And in the long run, these kind of kids would further use this kind of abuse and think that it's okay on their future spouse, which is far worse. So their side perpetuates patriarchy order. But secondly, lastly, let's talk about divorce, because we need to recognize that the happiness of parents is also an important part of this debate. We argue that parents need to have an opportunity to discover who fits them, what type of relationship fits them, and what is the best way in which they can get happiness. Their side excludes all of that by forcing a parent to stay within that. But this is why this is so harmful, because they don't allow parents to divorce when they don't have kids. This is literally telling parents to suck it up if they realize the relationship is faltering. This is like, even though people have tried to resolve their relationship, their policy is asking parents to suck it up. We think it's harmful for both parents and children in this debate.
Thank you, Deputy Leader of Off. And we now have the government whip.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, even if my parents were to be abusive towards me, as an individual who's below the age of 18, I still need proper education, I still need food, I still need people to give me love, I still need people to educate me in life. You will argue today, even if my parents were to be abusive, it's the responsibility of parents to the very least able to cater towards me until I'm 18, until I'm able to think rationally by my own self, until I'm mature enough to be independent, no longer dependent towards them in terms of financially and like finding food and such. We argue to you that even if these parents were to like opt towards divorce, to the very least we're going to opt towards divorce after these children are above the age of maturity. We're not against divorce, but we're saying that to the very least these parents should take the responsibility that they have the very second they are called as a parent, which is to cater to the needs of your children, regardless of whatever happens in your life. But before that, here's a structure of my speech. First, I'm going to tell you all the flaws that exist from their side of the house, singly about every single issue that exists. We're going to clarify this debate and show you what side of government should be to this debate, right? Now, firstly, let's look at the main flaw that exists from their side of the house. The very main flaw that exists from their side of the house is that they are assuming that every single individual, every single children out there are like Albert Einstein, able to think maturely by their own self and able to make decisions. Why is it harmful? Because number one, you're making children equal towards adult. You're assuming that this is how children are able to go and work. This is how under your side of the house children go and work and no longer go to school because you're making their intellect as same as adults. Which means they are also going to treat these children as adults, letting them to become independent, letting them to survive by their own self, with the very fact that these children, especially when they are below the age of maturity, very dependent towards their parent, very harmful under their side of the house. Have a seat, sir. Second flaw that exists from their side of the house is that they are assuming that all divorce cases that exist within status quo are only because of abusive cases. We should argue that no. Not all divorce cases are because of abusive cases. There are certain divorce cases it's because of, for example, financial problems and etc. But secondly, we're arguing that even if it were to become because of abusive cases, number one, we argue that within status quo, we already have certain measures in order for us to solve this problem. Because this is where it comes towards child abuse. With child abuse, we already cater with status quo. Neighbors could go and report it to the police, and the teachers could also know whether that particular children is being abusive or not. But second, let's take that at their best. Even if these divorce cases happen because of abusive cases, and these children would most often want to opt out of it and want their parents to divorce, we are willing to take a check off. To the very least, these parents need to fulfill and finish their job, which is to give basic needs towards the particular children, education, food, etc. until they reach the age of 18. Until then, if they go to opt for divorce, then go ahead. To the very least, these parents finish their job to become a parent from the very first get-go. And that's why we want every single parent to know the very second they have been entitled to become a parent. But before that, yes.
Tell me examples and instances where court's decision have not prioritized your children's need in any divorce case.
Two-level responses. Number one, even if these parents, these children's opinions were to be catered towards the court, number one, they will no longer become a parent. They will only become either a father or a mother. Understanding the nature of a particular children, these children needs love from both sexes, regardless of being a father or a mother. Number one. But number two, even if this children's decision and who they pick, whether father or mother, is being catered to, they still need, if not catered to, that's when you argue to this where you're neglecting the voices of these particular children, in which you argue to is still probable under your side of the house. Now, let's go to the issue that exists within this debate. Firstly, from the idea of how abusive parents exist, how they need to solve this problem of abusive cases. Number one is like I told you just now, the law in status quo is already catering to these cases. But secondly, even in a situation where these parents were to be abusive and status quo isn't able to solve these problems, number one, we argue to that at the very least these children will still have their parents in order for these particular children to obtain certain basic needs that these particular children need in order for him or her to survive within this world. To the very least, they still have parents, and they could say to a friend and say, like, I still have a family, I still have a parent, and my parents aren't divorced. Yeah, to the very least, on our side of the house, we make the children to know that to the very least, marriage isn't just about you can easily opt out just because there are certain problems that exist. To the very least, they know that becoming a parent is something which is important, and that's the very message that we want people on the ground to understand. Secondly, on the idea of how, let's say in a situation where this marriage is irreconcilable, why is it still harmful? Number one, we argue, to the very least, we argue that these particular children are able to understand that love isn't about the idea of whether which one is right and which one is wrong, whether marriage is never being able to reconcile. To the very least, on our side of the house, we show to these children that to the very least, becoming in a marriage, you need to have certain consent, and both individuals need to consent and love each other in order for them to become better. Before that, yes.
If your love in your world still includes level of mental suffering that the children has, what is love in your own definition?
To the very least, okay, let's compare the idea of abusive cases and show you why side government's idea of abusive is more or less likely to happen compared to their side of the house. To the very least, on our side of the house, when we punish these parents the second they divorce because of abusive cases, this is where these parents will start to understand the reason why they should not divorce, especially when it comes to abusive cases. Under your side of the house, even if they are able to opt out from this relationship and get married afterwards, they won't get that message, and more often or not, they will still continue their abusive abusive behavior that they have done towards their last spouse. You saw other the other house, it's worse because these parents were never able to understand the very responsibility that they should have towards these particular children. Within our side of the house, we say, especially when it comes to this children's future, it's not something we can play with. We're really much proud to propose.
We'd like to thank the government whip and call the opposition whip. Here.
They make it a wasteland and call it side government's case. I understand there is a rise in going hardline in debates today, and there's an assumption that will win you. But defending abuse will never win you debates, bro. I'll give you that free advice. 3 questions that I need to answer in today's debate and why side opposition takes it. We'll engage on their issue. Is love a right from both parents? And is there a necessity for a marriage to exist before children can become functional and happy adults? Secondly, how the children grows up. This is where I'll be comparative and tell you why we win and how we enable and facilitate a better development for these children in the comparison to their side. And also, since this is a policy debate, we need to talk about the sort of repercussions of this particular policy. This is where Kenneth's substantives on how a lot of, in many countries, the patriarchal narrative of why you must remain in a marriage and the unfortunate burden that a marriage is a be-all, end-all, absolute good and getting out of one is extremely harmful is a horrible narrative to be sent by the states, and why we are on the side that prefers more and more divorces. We would rather the bar be set very low and people get divorces on demand. Before I move on, any question? No, that's what? Huh? Okay, that's what I thought. First question, right? Is love a right from both parents? This is what they posit to us, right? They said that there was a great value placed on the idea of having the same form of parenting, right? So this oftentimes leads to children being heartless. Let me prove to you that there was no nexus and there was no development in the case. Their whole assumption and the entire case hinges on this, right? That if a kid loses a parent or if a kid is from a divorced home, they would oftentimes end up being like improper adults. We don't think this is true and they did nothing to prove that. Like a lot of studies and a lot of trends and a lot of people in the status quo come from divorced parents and they're not as abhorrent or horrible human beings like you pause them to be. But what we tell you is a comparative is being forced to be in a relationship. And I think the beauty of this motion is there are many different spectrums, right? There are spectrums of families, there are spectrums of relationships, there are spectrums of how people would react in a divorce. We told you, and we told you from the LO, that divorces oftentimes happen in the best case for your side, right? Because of incompatibilities, right? Just minor disagreements. And these are oftentimes non-pernicious cases, but what we also posit to you is the vast majority of divorces are oftentimes occur in far-right abusive homes, right? This is where Alex's substantive or not everything against the law and not everything that is by the law is a good thing, right? We think there's some forms of insidious abuse that can happen within marriages where there's a constant barracking of who you are as a person, right? If the husband continues to stay and continues to mentally abuse the wife, call her fat, force her to do the house chores, call her an Indonesian maid and tell her that she's a horrible human being. These are abuses that have tangible amount of harm that haven't been accounted for under the law, right? But secondly, we also told you going forward that oftentimes within these marriages, these people are very afraid to speak out because they understand what they set to lose, because the asymmetry of information, because the dogma placed upon them that leaving a marriage is an abhorrent thing and they will never be accepted back into society. You further perpetuate the narrative. You take away the only voice an abuse victim has in a marriage, right? The ability for a divorce. Because once she gets a child, she has thrown the key away and she has no ability to opt out because you either find her and put her in jail. We think that is abhorrent acts and we don't think that is preferable. But secondly, and this is where the larger chunk of the crux of this debate happened, right? What happens to the kid, right? They told us this. Children are immature. Dude, no, that is completely untrue. I think a 4-year-old can recognize abuse. A 5-year-old can recognize if his mom or dad goes crying every single night that there is something wrong within the relationship. It doesn't take Albert Einstein to understand that slapping another human being or forcing a human being against their wishes is a bad thing, bro. Like really. But secondly, they also brought it to us that marriage is very, very important with no substantive. What do we posit to you? We think that marriage is archaic and we think it's horrible thing that you place upon them. But this is where their whip comes out and says, you know what kids actually need? They actually just need food and education. And like after that, they'll be fine. We told you also from our DLO that there are many other sources of when kids can get education, such as the state, such as child support and welfare that can be given to them. So we don't think it's mutually exclusive, the things that you get within a marriage, right? But what is the comparative? And this is the bigger chunk of debate, right? Number one, either constantly seeing the abuse on a day-to-day basis makes his kids desensitized to this form of abuse. This is where it breaks up to two levels, right? Number one, either these kids will be more okay with abuse in their adult life, right? I mean, if they enter relationships that are abusive, they will draw back to their parents' relationship and understand, if mom could put through this, maybe so should I. Maybe that's the right thing to do. Or secondly, even worse, right? They opt to becoming the abuser because they think it's the right thing to do. I'm just telling my girlfriend what is the better thing for her to do. I'm just telling my wife what is the better thing for her to do. Those are explicit harms. There was no engagement. But secondly, this is where I take you on your best case, right? This is where there isn't high levels of abuse and high levels of like, before I move on, yeah, go for everybody.
Okay, you say that 4-year-olds could recognize. Yes, we agree, but then they could also, like be easily influenced by a father who gives him an ice cream and saying that everything is okay. How do you justify their reasons then?
Okay, then the counsel will ask, did your dad give you an ice cream? And then tell the court it's okay. And the kid says yes. Yeah, okay, then we get, maybe the kid isn't that mature, right? But like court proceedings aren't linear, like what you said, right? We ask everyone's opinion, and oftentimes more and more people come forward. Only when they do go to court, right? Unfortunately, no one comes forward preemptively to report abuses. It's a horrible thing, but that is the status quo, debate that. But secondly, this is where I take you on your best case, right? This is where the kids will oftentimes be played in a relationship. If I and my wife are just incompatible and we wanted a divorce mutually, we both agree that we are incompatible, but if a state continues to force us to be together and we recognize the only reason we are being together is the particular kid, this is where on your best case, there's some level of unappreciation or there's some loss of love towards the kid because the kid is the main reason why they're forced together. But in the worst case scenario, right, we would see this is where parents tend to abuse their children instead because there are large amounts of unhappiness and being forced to be together under the fiat of having a kid, right? We think that is abhorrent. But what is the last debate that we also win upon, right? This is where we engage with the patriarchy, right? This is where you say that it's okay to be in an abusive relationship and marriage is more important. We think those are patriarchal notions that need to be broken. Why? And this is where Kenneth's argument is very important, right? Unfortunately, in most developing nations where the patriarchy is still strong, we see males being abusive, having the power play, having the ability to be financially secure, and the asymmetry of information. Your policy benefits the aggressor because these aggressors oftentimes want to remain in a marriage because they don't see their wife as a partner, they see their wife as a maid, a wife as a servant, right? As a slave, right? Just like you said, just give them food and education, but we can abuse them all the way, right? Those are abhorrent narratives that we want to be against. What do you get on our side and where were we comparative, right? If we set the threshold for divorces much lower on a comparison to you and more victims can come out and speak and still get levels of benefits that we accrue to them, we think we win this debate. Never been prouder to oppose.
We'd like to thank the opposition whip and call forward the opposition reply to ratification for all. They're here.
My mom once told me that children who grow up with abusive dads somehow end up in the same relationship. I think I see a trend in that. When children grow up condoning abuse, seeing their dad or mom being abused, having no friends, having no identity, the parent having none of these, and the child being seen as a burden, I believe that it's something that detriments the child even more. On-site government, all they wanted to do was tell you that children can grow up in the best case scenario of where both parents give love to children. We want that too for the child. Sadly, finite amount of love that they can give to a child. And if their priority is that children's needs will never be met, we say that this can be easily eased upon side opposition. Why? Because when children grow up in households where the risk of abuse is high to a woman, to a child, to an emotional mental health, to become a burden and growing up believing that they are a mistake in the world, we believe that this is where the child will never grow up happy or have their needs of love met. If your physical needs of education and food can then be met by social security or childcare, we believe that courts will also listen to you and do the best cost-benefit analysis when it comes to custodian issues, when it comes to parents being the best person to be able to cater to these needs. Courts have always been hearing children. And on-site government's case, they're changing these dynamics. the courts will now never hear the children's voices. They'll always be deemed as immature, irrelevant, trash of society that they'll never have to listen to because adults are the most important because they pay tax. That's just it. So when it comes to understanding the narrative of a family that the side government wants to impose on, they want the archaic narrative of how parents must stay together, that marriage is a document of everlasting love and support for each other. We believe there's a difference between being a husband and father and mother and wife. As a spouse, you're responsible towards your partner. If your care cannot even fulfill that role, the audacity to become a parent is abhorrent. That the fact that courts under government will never hear the children's preferences, even more detrimental, by allowing these partners to continue suffering in each other's presence, being fake happy. That their happiness now then comes at the expense of their child, just because the child is under the age of majority. We don't think so. That this archaic narrative of family only continues to allow abuse to happen, only continues to allow unhappiness to grow within a family institution and eventually break down. The archaic narrative of the family will then never happen in the future and in the long run. On our case, our definition of a family can then be based on just these individual preferences. If a child prefers to live with her mom alone, we then let her be, because this is where she grows up to become someone who understands feminism, who understands misogyny, who understands the science of being abused, and will never end up in a relationship like her mom did. We believe that this is something that the children's needs are fulfilled the best, if that is their first priority. And on our case, we told you many instances of how this will then increase the likelihood of people condoning more abusive things in society outside. More so, these families are very intact, and institutional families doesn't really mean that it's good. Just because we are legal by law doesn't make it right. And we believe on our side, if children's happiness are prioritized, you'll go with us. Thank you.
We'd like to thank the opposition reply, and to finally close around, government reply. Here.
Here's the thing. When we consider the fact that children need parents, we believe that they need love in both of love from mother and father. We believe that they still need basic needs. The fact that they are still a children means that the parent have certain amount of responsibility towards the children. So we believe that in our side of the house, we actually provide more protection to the children from their side of the house. Firstly, we consider the fact that in their best case where divorce happen because of abusive, right? So how actually we protect better in children in our side? Firstly, to the very least, in our side of the house, children still have the basic needs of that particular thing. They still have like education and such. But in their side of the house, there are no like measure where like how actually that parents can give to this kind of children. Secondly, we believe that when the children stay in that particular abusive relationship, they will understand that how bad it is. And when they opt out, when they're like 18 and when the parent divorce, they will understand how actually it is a bad idea, how there will be more awareness when they will become a better parent in the future, because they will understand that when you want to get married, they will see what is the consequences. And in this rather than neglecting this factor. And secondly, how the whole idea of awareness, how we should win. Firstly, we prove to you that in long term, not only that the parents will be aware about how actually their decision will make toward the children. How when they make a decision to divorce, how actually it affects to the children. We also say that even if this do not happen, to the very least, the awareness on people who will be married can be created by that, because they will start to understand that if they want to marry, there will be punishment if they divorce. So they will take into consideration more, because they will understand that if they are married and have children, that particular children will be the one who their life being have a huge impact when they divorce. And thirdly, we believe in their best case in abusive things, right? We believe that there are law within in the status quo status quo, which means the law will protect the children and the mother and such. So we believe that even if that, like today's debate, we believe that that's the reason why we need to put some kind of punishment, because to the very least the parents will understand they are responsible to the children. They will not like simply like go marry and just have child and then they think that it is okay for them to divorce just because of tiny thing and such. For that reason, we believe we back to propose. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'd like to thank both teams who invited us across the house and stay behind for the discussion. Hi, are you a trainee?
I was watching my friends.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So my trainee didn't show.
Yeah, I'm gonna take you.
Why? Because I'm still gonna give the decision.
Because you have lunch for now and then you want.
I have to give the decision to the debater.
Oh,
I asked them if I could have. I haven't eaten all day. I have stomach acid, but Orcom refused. Or something. Never mind. I'll just. Thanks. I can find my way back. You don't have to wait.
Thank you.
forgiveness for this.
Where's everyone? Coming in.